Hey everyone, and welcome to this explainer. Today, we're pulling back the curtain on a really fascinating masterclass by Electrogenic Solutions. We are going to reveal the invisible, behind-the-scenes tech that is quite literally running our modern world. We're talking about demystifying photoelectric sensors, because as you'll soon see, these things are the true eyes of industrial automation. Okay, let's dive right into this. You know that feeling when you're rushing to catch an elevator, you stick your arm out and the door just magically reverses right before it crushes you? Have you ever actually stopped to wonder how the elevator knows to do that? I mean, it's not magic, right? And there isn't a person sitting in a control room watching you on a camera. It is actually a highly precise piece of industrial technology working in just a fraction of a second. And that brings us to the real hero here, the photoelectric sensor. Electrogenic Solutions actually calls these the versatile, silent guardians of automation. Their entire job is to monitor, count, and protect objects in the physical world. So whether it's counting 1,000 soda bottles flying down a conveyor belt every minute, or just making sure that elevator door doesn't close on your arm, these sensors are basically acting as the physical eyes of the machines. To really understand how they act as eyes, let's look under the hood. Section 1. Inside the sensor. Let's break down the core components. So, if we break down the core construction of what's actually inside one of these things, it's essentially a tiny flashlight paired with a tiny camera. There are three main components you need to know about. First up, you have the emitter. Think of this as the flashlight. It houses a light-emitting diode, an LED, that's usually shining an infrared light that human eyes can't even see, though sometimes it's a visible red light. Second, you have the receiver. This is the eye. It contains a phototransistor whose single solitary job in life is to just look for the light coming from that emitter. And finally, you have the converter. This is the brain of the operation. It processes the signal from the receiver and decides whether or not to flip an electrical output switch based on whether it sees that light. Now that we know the physical parts, how does this actually translate into action? Section 2, a game of catch. Let's look at the working principle. I absolutely love this quote from the source material. Think of it like a game of catch. It's just such a brilliant metaphor because it takes this really abstract electronics concept and turns it into everyday physics that we can all instantly visualize. Let's look at exactly how this game is played. Here is the exact four-step sequence of how a beam of light turns into a physical signal. Step 1, the emitter throws the ball by sending out a continuous beam of light. Step 2, the receiver, acting exactly like a catcher's mitt, waits there to catch that beam. Now, step 3 is where the magic happens. An object, maybe it's a box on a belt, maybe it's your arm in the elevator, enters the path and either blocks that beam or reflects it. And finally, step 4, the sensor detects that the ball wasn't caught, or maybe it bounced back weirdly, and it immediately triggers an electrical output. Literally, that blocked ball of light instantly tells a programmable logic controller, or PLC, to stop a motor. It's that fast. And honestly, it's that simple. But of course, different environments demand totally different types of eyes. Section 3, the three main types and the strategies behind them. Let's introduce the first specific variation. We call these the through-beam sensors, but honestly, you can just think of them as the long-distance runners of the sensor world. The whole mechanism of the through-beam relies on separate housings. The emitter and the receiver are completely detached from one another. The emitter constantly shines its beam directly across a physical gap to the receiver. Because they're separated like this, they are incredibly powerful. They are absolutely the best choice for covering really long distances and surviving in super dirty, dusty environments where a weaker light would just get scattered and lost. But there is a massive trade-off here. The challenge is that they are by far the hardest to install. You have to run power and wiring to two entirely separate units across a room, and you have to align them absolutely perfectly. If they're off by even a little bit, the receiver can't catch the beam. Now, if you don't want the headache of wiring two separate units, you might move on to the second type. These are the retroreflective sensors, beautifully dubbed the teen players. The big game changer here is that the emitter and the receiver are packed into the exact same housing. So wait, how do they play catch if they're right next to each other? Well, by using a wall, or in this case, a reflector. You just mount a simple reflector on the opposite side of, say, a conveyor belt. The light shoots out, hits the reflector, and bounces right back into the receiver. If an object blocks the path, that bounce back is broken. This makes them the ultimate middle ground option. They are fantastic for medium distances and drastically easier to install because you only have to run electrical wiring to one side. The reflector on the other side? That's literally just a cheap piece of plastic or glass. But what if you have literally zero space on the other side of the object? That's where we introduce our third and final, most compact variation, the diffuse reflective sensors. the solo artists. With these solo artists, absolutely everything is in one housing, and there is no separate reflector used at all. None. So how does the light get back? This is wild. The target object itself acts as the reflector. The sensor sends out the light, and when an object gets close enough, the light just bounces right off the object's surface and back into the sensor. This makes it incredible for close-range detection where space is super tight. But there is a really fascinating caveat here. Because the object itself is the reflector, the object's color and texture matter immensely. Think about it. If a shiny silver aluminum can rolls past, it's going to reflect a ton of light. But if a matte black rubber tire rolls past, it's going to absorb that light. So a diffuse sensor has to be tuned incredibly carefully based on exactly what it's trying to look at. Okay, so understanding the tech is only half the battle, right? Section 4, choosing your sensor. Let's look at the trade-offs and options. Electrogenic Solutions provides this brilliantly simple summary to help visualize these trade-offs. As you move from the heavy-duty through beam down to the diffuse, you'll notice the physical setup drops from needing 2 powered units down to just 1, so the installation gets way easier. But as the setup gets easier, your range drops from very long to short, and your raw reliability drops to moderate. It's a classic engineering puzzle. Range and reliability are constantly trading off against the ease of installation. So the crucial takeaway is applying this to the real world. Imagine you are engineering a pristine, compact, clean lab. You need short-range detection, and you want a super easy install without running extra cables and brackets everywhere. You're going to choose the diffuse sensor for sure. Now, flip the script. You are standing on a heavy-duty, dirty factory floor, and you need to monitor a massive 10-meter gap across a giant piece of machinery. A diffuse sensor wouldn't even make a dent in that dust. You absolutely 100% need the raw brute force power of the through-beam sensor. To wrap things up, I want to echo the great sign-off from the Electrogenic Solutions Masterclass. Knowledge is power. Keep the circuits flowing. You now actually know the secrets behind the hidden eyes running our factories, our grocery stores, and our office buildings. So I'll leave you with this thought. The next time you walk through a set of automatic doors, step onto an escalator, or jump into an elevator, take a look around. Which of these silent guardians is watching your movements right now? Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and hey, keep your eyes open.